Mason Mount's shock return to first team training for Manchester United. Ten Hag gave us the boost news yesterday that we really wanted to hear, with De Ligt, Martinez and Mazraoui all being fit. And now we've got that extra little bit of good news that Mason Mount is back in first team training already. We touched on it yesterday about him being 2 weeks away, but now the MEN have come out with Samuel Luckhurst and said that Mason Mount is now back training with the first team and is going to be available sooner than originally thought. Maybe even in contention for the Crystal Palace game. Off the back of that, I've got a poll in the live chat right now. Not only do I want your live comments, I also want your votes on the poll. If Mount is fit for Palace, who are you playing at number 10? Mason Mount or Bruno Fernandes? This is Forever United TV, everybody. Welcome along to game day. Manchester United kickstart their Carabao Cup campaign tonight against Barnsley at home. 8 o'clock kickoff at Old Trafford. As always, we'll have the full match day build-up and content after the game for you guys on the match day watch-along. Not watch-along, actually. Match day reactions with all of the fans outside and myself going over what should be a routine win for Manchester United tonight. So please give this video a like to kickstart match day, to give the good vibes I'll give the good vibes a bit of a good kickstart to the day, because United, we will win tonight. I'm pretty confident we will win tonight. But obviously, if Forever United TV has got loads of likes, we know it's a guaranteed win. It worked against Southampton, so let's continue it, El Shower. It helps the channel as well. Please do subscribe and hit that bell notification button as well to make sure you miss out on none of the content throughout the day and over the match day tonight. Let's get into what's actually happening with United and who's available. This is a massive headache, as Ten Hag talked yesterday in the press conference. Ten Hag actually talking openly about having headaches in team selection. And Mason Mount has now added to that. This is absolutely brilliant news. And do you know what? Alongside the debate of Bruno Fernandes that we had yesterday, I feel like Mason Mount coming back to fitness is a definite debate that we need to be having. Who plays at number 10? Is this the time for Eric now to look at Mason Mount and go, do you know what? This could be the turning point. Do you know what? It's horrible to think this, but I personally just expected Mason Mount to be out for months. I've just got sick of injuries. He was falling into the Luke Shaw category for me as a demic and never been available for consistent selection for Manchester United. And him coming back sooner than first thought. Like, we thought, do you know what, another 6 weeks, we're not going to see him now until after the next international break. For him to be back in massive games that are coming up right now, the European games in particular, Mason Mount, the experience and that energy up front in that number 10 role. I'm not saying that Bruno doesn't bring that. He brings that in abundance. And this is why Ten Hag has played both of them. I hope he doesn't revert back to playing both of them again, because we need that focal point. We need that forward. In the games against Fulham and against Brighton at the start of the season, everyone's going on about how Manchester United look good in the press, but we have no punch. We have no goals. We do need to fit in a forward into that role. Mason Mount, I feel, is fully competing now with Bruno Fernandes. It's a big call for Eric Ten Hag to make in dropping his captain, but I feel like it's one that you know what, he will. I don't mean to say this in any disrespect to Mason Mount, but he'll get away with it. I think Ten Hag will get away with dropping Bruno Fernandes. That being with the fan base and everyone kicking off and pundits and everything like that, I'd say to Eric Ten Hag right now, go for it. Do what you want to do, Eric, right now. If you want to bring Mason Mount in, it's the perfect time to bring him in for a Bruno Fernandes, because Bruno's not been great where he has got that impact and he has got that wow factor when it comes to just bringing anything up that he possibly can or creating anything at any given moment. I think Mason Mount probably fits into a system a little bit better in how Ten Hag wants to consistently play. And I'm not saying that Bruno Fernandes doesn't fit in that either. He could easily drop back and cover Kobbie Mainoo in number 8 and give the energy there, getting up and down the pitch. Maybe if he's vacating that number 10 role, Bruno Fernandes, then we haven't got that focal point. We haven't got that link-up play, where Mason Mount, I think, will be a bit more... I think he'd be a bit more disciplined in his position play at number 10 than what Bruno would be. Give Bruno that free role. If you want to rest Kobbie Mainoo, you have to be versatile. And Ten Hag has talked about rotating. It doesn't mean just rotating players in off the bench and in the squad and giving players a rest. It means rotating players within this team, because Bruno Fernandes right now, he's got a free role, it seems. He's picking the ball up at 6, at 8, at 10, all over the place, out wide. Put him in at number 8 and tell him, look, all right, use that energy, but stay in the middle. cover that back line, get back in position, and then you can spray them balls when needed. Get the ball back. When you've got that energy of Bruno Fernandes and Mason Mount, I think it's wasted in the press alone. And as good as that was, and we did win the ball back quite high in different stages against Fulham and Brighton when both were playing together, I think we did miss that killer punch. Like I said, that forward play just wasn't there for United. And I do believe that we need to actually have that option to have someone in there to finish the ball. Like, it's all the work going in. If you've got, and this is why I would love the situation now where it's got a complete option. You've got loads of options. I talked about it the other day. If you want to play Højlund and Xerxes, you could play them at 9 and 10. Bruno could drop and cover for Kobbie Mainoo in at 8. If you wanted to squeeze Bruno in, that is, or bench him, keep Kobbie Mainoo there. You've got Agate, who's always going to be in at 6, I think, from now on. What Mason Mount brings you is that option. If you want to play both Mount and Bruno, you could play Mount out on the right. You could play Mount in at false 9. You could play at 10. Two versatile players in Bruno and Mount there that give you that pressing energy. Will Ten Hag drop Marcus Rashford if he wants to mix it up? All we're saying is with this, the Mason Mount news coming back now, with Højlund coming back for this weekend, Xerxes getting more game time, Ahmad playing well, Garnacho off the bench chomping at the bit, Marcus Rashford finally scoring a goal. Bruno Fernandes really is the one right now that probably just needs to step up a little bit and actually get a bit more consistent, I feel, because Ahmad's had a great start. Garnacho, yeah, you can say consistently, he's had one start against Liverpool and everyone was bad in that game, and it's hard to really judge just Garnacho on his own from that. He had a poor performance, just like many other players did in that game. So you've got Garnacho doing his bits off the bench and now probably ready to start. Hopefully he will start tonight, Garnacho. So Garnacho is there. You've got Rashford there. Both hitting the mark, scoring goals at weekend. Ahmad with all his creation on the other side. And then you've got Mason Mount coming back, who had a good start. You've got Bruno Fernandes, Højlund, Xerxes. Ten Hag has got multiple options right now. And if he has got a style of play that he wants to implement, then he could do it in a number of different ways. I think Mason Mount is probably the best bit of news that we've had this week in terms of giving him an option. Because off the bench, he can change it, and from the start, he can change it. Will he drop Bruno Fernandes for Mason Mount? Now, that's the big question. Will he shoehorn players just to make sure that certain players are going to get in? That's the issue that I've got with how Ten Hag does it sometimes. You don't need to have Mount and Bruno in that front four. One of them can drop a bit deeper and play that role. We have played Mason Mount at 8. I don't think it suits him. Personally, I think Bruno's a better 8 if you are trying to move it around and rest Kobbie Mainoo. Obviously, Kobbie stays at 8 when everyone's fit and fully rested. Agate's at 6. I think that's our best combination. To be honest, I wouldn't mind swapping Kobbie Mainoo and Bruno Fernandes in 8 and 10. I think Kobbie Mainoo would play better at 10. Although he isn't as like quick off the mark and press well. I think he's got the energy there to press. I don't think he's got as good a press as what Mason Mount and Bruno Fernandes have got, or as intense, I would say. But you see where I'm going with this. Rotation, options, players being fit, players coming back from injury. Good news, good news, good news. Very positive for Ten Hag. This could turn into be a very, very good week because the team that we've got right now that's going to be available, get through tonight, get players with the amount of game time that need game time, get players rested that need to be rested. And then going into Palace, you could be coming off the back of a horrible international break in terms of results leading into it, of losing to Liverpool and Brighton, going and beating Southampton 3-0, then winning Barnsley tonight. And if we beat Crystal Palace at weekend, which there is no reason we shouldn't do with this squad that we've got available, then bang, the positivity goes through the roof. And then United are looking at, what, FC20 at home? That will be 4 wins in a row. And everything changes. And it looks like with rotating the squad and bringing players in, you've got more players on board with that whole direction you want to go in. And it just looks better, feels better. And it's all about momentum. It's about confidence. It's about consistency. If you can get them 4 wins in a row by beating Barnsley tonight, Crystal Palace at weekend, then FC20 next week, next Wednesday, then you really are starting to move. And that leading into the Spurs game is everything that Manchester United and Ten Hag in particular needs right now. He'll have everyone on board. I'm guessing he will mix it up for FC20 again, but this all being because it seems to have changed. Our luck seems to have changed with injuries. I was fully expecting, and I said, like, yesterday was an absolute whirlwind of injury news yesterday, but all for the good reasons. We went from weekend worrying that Martinez and Mazraoui might be out to Matthias de Ligt only having cramp, Martinez and Mazraoui both available for tonight, Mason Mount back in first team training, Højlund's back for the Crystal Palace game, and Luke Shaw the week after. There's only bleeding Malacia who's missing. And that's your lot. Like, forget about Lindelof. We don't care about him. We don't need him. But it actually feels like Manchester United have got a squad. And Ten Hag can do whatever he wants. And we should start seeing Ten Hag ball, or some form of Ten Hag ball, quite soon. We need to be playing better football. We know this. But when you've got more options, you've got a better chance of getting that. Mason Mount, I think, could be key for Ten Hag. I pray, I touch wood, I touch everything I possibly can to hope that Mason Mount stays fit now. Because I feel like him being there and available for Ten Hag will be the difference in making Ten Hag change and rotate. There will be calls to rest Bruno Fernandes. You don't need to play a 30-year-old Bruno Fernandes every single game of the season. He can be moved out. He can be dropped to the bench. He can be moved into number 8. He can be anywhere. He doesn't need to play every single game. And if Ten Hag, it's just my own opinion on this, if Ten Hag does go into that and actually utilises the squad that he has got this season, because we have got multiple options for number 10, we have. And Bruno can always play 8 as well. I feel like he is onto something with that there. And this is why I said Manchester United should be getting top 4. This squad is more than good enough to get top 4. We need to just build up that form and that confidence. And then Manchester United, when we get there, I feel this squad, if we get in and about that top 4, I think the belief will be back there. It's like last season, 6th, 7th, 8th, just dropping, never moving higher than 6. If you get in and amongst the mix, it gets into the player's psyche, it gets into their mentality, it gets into them thinking that, you know what, we're actually in this, we're in with a fight here. And then they start to play a little bit more confidence. If he uses the rest of the squad, rotates the players, brings on players like swapping Ahmad and Garnacho and Rashford, maybe even Antony in the depths of games as well at times, just making sure that everyone feels like they're involved. And you go into that last 2 months of the season, you'll see a massive difference. You see a huge difference in the squad and the confidence within it. Obviously, it all boils down to not getting injuries and Ten Hag, I would say, not using it as an excuse. I don't think he's going to have the chance to this season. I think our luck is changing. And just that news coming out about Mount, Mazraoui and Martinez this week alone, that gives us real confidence going into these next few games, because this time last season is where United ballsed everything up. This is where everybody was forgetting what actually happened last season. The injuries all started coming in around about halfway through the season, but December time going forward, the injuries just mounted and mounted and mounted. But the first 26 games of the season, United went out of Europe completely, went out the Carabao Cup, and gave themselves too much of a job to do in terms of catching up to the teams in the top 4 race. This season, I think it's imperative, looking back on last, to make sure that we are there and thereabouts, because teams will drop away in the second half of the season, and anybody can go on a run. So make sure that you're still in the mix going into that Christmas period, going into January, because let's not forget, in December we've got City, and the first game after New Year is Liverpool. Obviously, you're not expecting to get anything out of them games. Like, reality tells you that United's records in both of them games in the league are not good. Get as many points on the board before that, because that's going to be a part of the season where everybody's going in on Manchester United, because we've lost 2 more big games. But I'm saying we've lost them. Like, we might turn it around. We can beat anyone on our day. But you know what I'm saying? There's always the chance that you're going to lose them games. And you know what? Going into them games, if we haven't got as bad a form, if we do lose them games or have bad results in them games, people won't look at it on the same way as Manchester United being that bad and that horrendous like we did last season. Get this period now of games with everyone that's available, rotate it, make sure you're involving everybody. Don't be afraid to drop big names. Don't be afraid to actually bring in different players in different positions, i.e. like we just discussed with Mount, Højlund, Xerxes, Bruno, all of this. And do you know what? I feel like United, and this is what I was saying at the start, pre-season, building up, how good the pre-season was, no excuse. Absolutely no excuse. This is a good squad of players. And if he gets that balance right, and the likes of Van Nistelrooy and Rennie Hart and everyone gets in and everyone's on board with it, then this team has got the potential to finish top 4 this season. I'm not going to have anyone convince me that we cannot get top 4 or lower my standards to a point where we have to accept that Europa League is where we are. No, we can be higher than what we are. We can be definitely up there in the top 4. I've gone on with a little bit of a mini rant there. I'm sorry, guys. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Just around 700 in the room, 130 likes in the bag. Please get them likes up. Let's get over 200 while we're actually live, everybody. So I'm going to come to your comments now. Andrea says, Mount should start for Bruno for rotation. I think Bruno shouldn't be playing tonight, and then Bruno's probably got every right then to say that I should be playing at weekend. In terms of the poll, if you've got Mason Mount fit for weekend, who do you play at number 10? Bruno Fernandes or Mason Mount? I think this poll says everything we need to know. Keep voting on the poll as well, everybody, please. Mason Mount 45%, Bruno 55%, 10% in it. Now, that would have been unthinkable, I feel, last season. Or anyone saying that Bruno Fernandes should be out. But it just goes to show, it's not so much that people don't like Bruno or don't like Mount. It's for the sake of rotation and seeing something different. I feel like that's where the fan base is at, and that's where we are now. And we want to see Ten Hag using and utilising his squad. We can't see. And I made a point last night about Lenny Yoro not getting into Manchester United's side, and I got slaughtered for it. I was on the United View with Flex and was talking about Lenny Yoro and where does he fit in. Ten Hag needs to figure out what his best 11 is, which I still don't think he does. This season now, I think over the next 2 months is where you figure that out and then go with it. And rotate according, making 2 or 3 changes here and there, just making sure you're freshening things up. This is what Klopp did. This is what Pep does right now. This is what everybody who is up there ahead of Manchester United is doing. They know who their first team is. And like my concern for Yoro was that Ten Hag has got Matthijs de Ligt and Martinez there, and where does Yoro fit in? I understand he's one for the future as well, and it's all about having squad depth. But I just don't want a playoff that has got the potential just festering and just not getting the game time. I think he can step into Manchester United's side. I do believe that players are good enough. If you're good enough, you're old enough. And I feel like we wouldn't have just brought Lenny Yoro in just as a future buy. I want to see him get game time. And I just don't want the Antony effect where he's got his favourites there and Antony just festers away. We're never going to see Antony ever play for Manchester United consistently, ever. And it just looks like it's been a complete waste of money, the whole Antony saga. For 85 million for a bit part player, I don't want that scenario coming around. That's all I wanted to say on that one as well. But let's get into your comments as well. There's loads going in. Thank you for joining us, everybody. Grace says, do people not trust dropping Bruno for Mount for the Barnsley game, even if only that game? Mount, he's back in training. He's not fully fit yet, so he won't be playing tonight, is what I think we want to say on that one. United Spotlight says, why does every hate Mounts? I don't get. Why does everybody hate Mounts? I don't get it. He's come and been written off. He no more injury prone than Martinez or Højlund at this point. They're just some agenda against him. I can only think it's that number 7 shirt. Like, number 7 shirt wasn't Mason Mount's problem. He should never have been given it. Stupid decisions by the football club again, not Mason Mount's fault. So let me get this straight. We're playing Barnsley tonight whilst everyone else is playing Champions League football. How far have we fallen? I knew someone would pick that up. Look, no, it's just the way that the fixtures have been moved around. Look, United are playing next Wednesday night in the Europa League. Figure that out. That's a different one. What happened to the Thursday night football? Unless there's been a serious issue and misprint. But I double-checked it. United are playing FC20 on a Wednesday night in the Europa League. It's all mixed up this year with the league format in both the Champions League and the Europa League. So I don't think we should be looking at it that way. I knew someone would pick up on that. Like, yeah, the League Cup, it's got nothing to do with us not being in the Champions League. We're not in the Champions League because we had a shit season last season. That's it. That's all you can look at. I wouldn't rush Mount. Keep getting injured, but to be honest, I want him sold, says Mason. Anaki says, Ten Hag will not be able to compete on all competitions. I agree, Adam, that we have a good enough squad for the top 4, but is the manager up to it? Hopefully he is, and can turn the corner. Ten Hag has a lot of convincing to do this season. I was talking to Graham earlier on, like, I'm still convinced Ten Hag will be here for the full season. I don't think there is any other manager out there that Ineos have got in mind to bring in right now. And Ten Hag has got a free run this season. I think he will stay in the Europa League all the way through into springtime anyway, and United will just see the season out with him. So he's got a full season to prove to the fan base, to Ineos, that he is the man. He needs to be getting into the Champions League. It's like last night, Owen made a point on United View. If he wins the FA Cup and doesn't make Champions League football, he'll still get sacked. It's crazy to think, like, winning a trophy, 3 trophies in a row and being sacked. It is, isn't it? But that is a reality right now where things stand. Is Mason Mount returning really a big boost? A bog boost, says Ian, but I know you meant big, sorry, typo. I must have missed all these amazing performances he puts in at United for him to be such a miss. Look, he's not had a full chance. I get that, and I get that he hasn't really pulled up many trees yet. I just think it's a massive boost because everybody's saying, like, how do we mix it up? How do we rotate with Bruno Fernandes? Well, Mason Mount, I feel, can do that role. I think Mason Mount can fit into Bruno Fernandes' position at 10. Bruno can easily drop to 8 like we've described. There is multiple options there. And I think Mason Mount being back will force Ten Hag into rotation. I think it will make Ten Hag start thinking twice about certain games. Like, he's talked about having a big squad. He'd give it the whole big hoo-ha about having loads of players to select from. He is going to have to rotate. It's all he's been talking about. Maybe the coaches like Van Nistelrooy being there and playing at United before, working under Sir Alex Ferguson, learning how he rotated players, being part of Manchester United, the pressures and the mental pressures, and players needing more rest, not just physically but mentally as well. Being at this top level, that experience of Van Nistelrooy being there and competing at the highest level for United might help Ten Hag in pushing him into rotating players, resting players, making sure that they are getting every single bit of recovery time possible. Ten Hag has talked about recovery in pre-season. He's talked about needing to rotate because of the fixture list. I cannot see how he doesn't start moving Bruno Fernandes around and Mason Mount now and mixing it up with Højlund and Xerxes as well. He's got so many options there. And like we've said before, like, if you wanted to rest Kobe Mainoo, then you can do. Rotate Bruno, Mount, Mainoo. You've got Casemiro to come in. You've got Collier. You've got Agate there who's always going to be sat there as well. You've got plenty of options to change the shape. You've got multiple options. And I think he will figure out who his best 11 is. And I think we'll see, touch wood, no injuries change, 2 or 3 changes, minimal changes week in, week out, which just keep freshening things up within the squad. And that's how Manchester United make top 4. And I think we can make top 4. I still believe that we can make it with this squad that we've got right now. Into more of your comments. Richie says, Mount, don't understand the negativity. He's a top quality player. Wasn't Chelsea player of the season and man of the match in the Champions League final. A fully fit Mount is a huge asset. Yes, he is. Kazzy's at work, so she can't join as well. Ginny says, them sides were all coached and players come in knowing the system. We don't have a system. We need to find one very quickly. Jonathan says, we are not a top 4 team this season, but should be in top 6. Disagree, Jonathan. We are top 4. I'm not going to let anyone, like I said, try and convince me we're not. This team is good enough. We need to perform to that level. I'm not accepting 6. It's not good enough, Jonathan. Never in a million years. We should be doing a lot better. Chris Jackson, imagine a group of players at this stage of their growth being in the Champions League. No chance of getting through group stage. Only finance is a reason we should be in that competition. We can win the Europa. Manchester United's squad is good enough to get through a Champions League. I don't know why people are actually convincing themselves that Man United can't compete for top 4 and compete in the Champions League. We can. Borussia Dortmund went to the final. We're better than them. The team is better than Borussia Dortmund's team. I'm sorry. It's about having a conviction. It's about getting in the heads of these players, telling these players that they are good enough. They have done it before. A lot of these players finished 3rd with Ten Hag and won the Carabao Cup in his first season. You don't just get there by luck and overperforming, overachieving like Ten Hag said last season. That doesn't happen. You're there for a reason. The table never lies. First season, 3rd. Second season, 8th. The players and the manager let themselves down within that season. It's as simple. You underperformed. You cannot say that you overachieved just to cover a shit season. You can't say that. You underperformed, accept it, improve, change everything like United have done, get all new coaches in, get a whole new sort of look and a new vision going forward, get everyone on board with it like Ten Hag says they are, and no excuses. Top 4. Simple as. I'm not having anything else. A cup as well would be nice. Bruno needs a break. It's ridiculous the amount of football he plays. He plays a lot. When Rasmus is fit, drop Bruno and play Xerxes and Rasmus together. I've said that before, Morgan. It is an option that he should look at. You're dead right. Like I said, you could. There's so many options. It's like you look at it. Just sit back and look at where everybody can play. And obviously, we're not in there. We're not in the day-to-day of running Manchester United at Carrington. It's a different ball game. Looking in from the outside, everybody can be the best manager on the planet. I'm guilty of it. I hold my hands up. It's totally different when you're there. And managing players face-to-face, I understand all of that. And that's where I probably go a little bit too hard sometimes with my reactions and my thoughts on how things are being run. But still, you can see what is there. And that's something that's undeniable. You have got the quality there. You've got players that have won the Champions League. You've got players that have won the Premier League. All within this squad. You cannot ignore that. Them players are there and they will help the younger players coming through. And Manchester United have got a squad full of winners. Most of this team won the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup. They've got a taste of winning and what it takes to get to a final. The Europa League, like I was saying last night, is massive for Manchester United. We can win the Europa League. The best teams in it, competing with us, are the likes of Spurs, and you could probably try and push Roma if you wanted. But still, I think the other best team in it is Spurs right now. And yeah, there are other teams that go far and are notoriously good in European competitions, and there are some very difficult away games. And this is why the league stage is completely throwing everything out a little bit. The fact that we can't play Fenerbahce at home or Porto at home and have to play them both away and don't get a return leg, it is completely mixing everything up right now. And I feel like that is where Manchester United's... I think it's more to a disadvantage for Manchester United on that side of it in the league. But still, we've got the teams that we've got and the teams that we've got to play. United are comfortably in that top 8. I think we all know that. If we win our own games, which we will, there's 12 points. That's more, I think, with a couple of draws to get 14 points. I think that's easy to get into that top 8 after 8 games. 100%, you should be in that top 8 of the Europa League to get into that knockout phase straight away into the last 16. I think that is a easy target for Manchester United, and that's not being disrespectful to the teams that are in it, because there are tough games there, but you've got to expect United to be in there. Erik ten Hag is crap coach and man manager, throwing his own signing under the bus, i.e. 100 million Antony. Why the earth did he buy him if he can't even make the bench? Hoping to see Amas, Collier and Wheatley at least. Who you think starts on wings tonight? I think Antony will play. I think Garnacho will play. I think Xerxes will... Maybe Xerxes or Wheatley. I don't know. He may just want to keep playing Xerxes to give him that confidence and keep him rolling. I think he will just keep playing Xerxes at the moment. He needs that game time, I feel, because he didn't play a lot in the summer. And he's only just come back, having had no pre-season, really. Started games now consistently. I think one more game tonight. I think he's pretty much there where everyone else is, match fitness-wise then. And we are seeing some good qualities coming out of Xerxes. Like, he was impressive against Southampton. Yeah, crap opposition, and it's the same tonight again. But still, you can only play who's in front of you. And if the players get confidence from playing against the likes of Barnsley, a couple of goals, there's always a case. We should be rotating, and we will rotate, but it's always a case to keep playing players just to try and build the confidence up. I don't like it. I don't think it should be used. You should be able to play against anybody, but there is always that chance where you play a player again against Barnsley, like for instance, just use Rashford as an example. He scored at weekend. He could easily go out tonight and score an hat-trick. And then bang, you've got a Rashford absolutely chomping at the bit there, and he's got the bit between his teeth. You get what I mean? I don't think he will. I think it'll be more about resting players now, and I think that's the way that we are going to go forward. News just coming in as well that AKA Athens have confirmed, the agent is saying pretty much Antony Martial is close to agreeing a deal after the deal to Flamengo collapsed. God, this guy, honestly. We're into the back end of September. He's still not found a team. It's crazy. It's embarrassing, in fact, for Antony Martial. It really is. Someone was talking about Antony there in the comment section. Ten Hag on Antony yesterday, just to read a quote. Of course, Antony is impatient. He wants to play and is fighting to play. We have Ahmad, we have Ghana, who have been very effective. Rashford scoring at weekend. Antony has to earn his right in training, as do the others as well. Any player. That was from Ten Hag's press conference yesterday. Regarding Antony, I just don't see how he does it. I don't see how Antony gets in. I think he is an absolute waste of money. Not his fault. The price tag. I need to make that clear. There is a bit of me that feels sorry for him. You'd have thought after obviously Sancho and Palestra being shipped out over the summer that his chances have got better. But effectively, he is like fifth choice, isn't he? He is not getting into that side. You've got Garnacho, you've got Ahmad, like Ten Hag says. You've got Rashford. I actually do believe that he would play Xerxes out wide in some role ahead of him as well. I do believe that Mount and Bruno would play out wide ahead of him in a crunch game. I don't think he'd play him there. I think in games like tonight, you are going to see the likes of Antony start and give other players a rest. What he does in this game, will it convince Ten Hag to start him against Crystal Palace? There lies the problem. There lies the big problem for Ten Hag in sort of what is created. And there is a chance now to actually say, look, go out tonight, perform, and you may get a few more minutes off the bench at weekend. You may get 20 minutes at the end of the Crystal Palace game. See what you do then. This is up to Ten Hag and the player. It's both together. That's the cocktail that needs to work. And it won't work if you've got a player that knows he has got no chance of playing the week after, no matter how he plays in, say, this game tonight. Ten Hag has to balance it a little bit with these players more, I feel. And the players, they need to take the opportunity. Antony just goes out there tonight and does everything he possibly can. And he goes into the manager's thought process. The problem you've got is, and I don't want to go back over old ground and make it sound negative again, he did it against Newport. He got a goal, he got an assist, and he was in the team simply because of what Rashford did in Belfast, having his night out and his big bender. Then, literally the next game, Antony's dropped, Rashford walks straight back in. That's what Ten Hag has to get a grip of. That's what will separate the squad. That's what will divide the squad. And you will get that, all of that tag of the favourites again that Sancho was bitching on about constantly and things like that. It does come about, and I'm not defending Sancho on that, but if Ten Hag has created that sort of environment, then that will be a problem for him when he really needs to depend on these players late on in the season, because he's going to need to get players like Antony in to give other players a rest. And if Antony really wants to prove to everybody, like he said in the summer, that he is a Manchester United player and deserves to be in the team, then needs of the games, he needs to actually step up and say, you know what, bang. Yeah, you can call it Barnsley, but all I've done is come in and done my job and give the manager a headache. That's all he's done. And that's all he can do. So, really, tonight is a vital game in so many ways. I'm really looking forward to tonight. Really looking forward to it tonight. I cannot wait to see a different team out there on the pitch. People look at games like Barnsley and they just say, Carabao Cup. No, honestly, even if United lose tonight, but we played a different team, we played a few youngsters, I'll be buzzing with that. I'm not bothered. Honestly, the games like this I love. I love the youth team. We're going to be doing a lot more of the coverage of the youth team as well this season, guys, as well. We're speaking to United in terms of actually getting access and getting to a few games, possibly getting the chance to speak to a few players as well. So we're doing the overtime and we're doing a little bit more. So make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Make sure you hit that like button to support. It gives us the opportunity to do this extra bits of content. So when I see players from that youth team in that first team, that's everything for me. That I'm happy with seeing players from the youth team come through in the Carabao Cup. That's where I want these players playing. It's the perfect opportunity. And this youth team is good enough to go out there tonight on its own and beat Barnsley. They already have done it. They've beat them already this season, the under-21s. That's the first team of Barnsley in a friendly. So they are good enough. I know it's only a friendly and it's a different competition. And Barnsley will come tonight with their, 4,000 fans or whatever, singing. It's the big night. But United should just blow them away tonight. I can't wait to watch it. And I can't wait to see different faces on the pitch. And I think United will. I think it'll be a big win for United tonight. I've seen people in the chat there saying 4-0. More on it later. The road trip will be back later on as well, guys. We're going to get into the Barnsley game in a bit more detail. But just to go over everything again, regarding Manchester United, Mason Mount, top story. Surprise return for him back in first team training. And could possibly be a selection for Crystal Palace this weekend. Amazing news for United. Really positive news this morning on that. It broke last night while I was on the United View and I was like, whoa, that is a changer. Because of reasons I've said in this video. And if you are just tuning in, just go back and watch it all through again. Mason Mount will be the player that forces Ten Hag into rotation, I feel. That's my statement and my mark on this video. And that's what I wanted it to come across as. I feel like him being there and fully fit may give him that push into moving Bruno Fernandes either to the bench to rest him or to a different position, mixing it up. Rotation, rotation, rotation. Never mind location. It's all about rotation. That's how United get through this season, and that's how United make top 4. And they will make top 4 if they rotate and everybody is on point and listens. Well, then it comes down to Ten Hag's tactics and his philosophy and style, doesn't it? So hopefully he does prove me wrong, and gets in to top 4. How do I see it? Like, it's awkward for me. I'm sort of contradicting myself a little bit because I don't believe Ten Hag is the man for the future, but I believe he's got a squad there and he has got the capabilities of getting United to the top 4. Whether or not any of us will look at that and say, if he gets top 4, that's good enough for we can think Ten Hag can improve with this team and go forward and get the title. I don't think so. But Ten Hag can get United to top 4 and win the Europa League. He can. And this team can do that. And no one in the chat, as much as I appreciate all of your comments, as I do, and everyone's comment is valid and everyone's opinion is valid, no one's convincing me that this team cannot make top 4. I'm not having it. We can. Figure out over the next few weeks what that first team is. I think it will be De Ligt Martinez. I think it'll be Mazraoui. I don't even know if, Flex agreed with me last night saying that Luke Shaw actually now is second choice. He thinks that Dello will play more games at left back than Luke Shaw. And I've said the same thing before. I'm in agreement with him completely on that. I feel like Luke Shaw is now second rate. Don't count Luke Shaw as the go-to first choice left back. You're going to have to working around him, I feel. It's great and he's a luxury when he's fit right now. And he's a bonus. That's how you have to look at Luke Shaw. It's as simple as that. And then and that setup also gives Luke Shaw the time to come in and be bedded in slowly and not rush back in because he's just there. Luke Shaw's available, put him in the side. No, that shit's gone. Forget that now. We can't do it. We can't afford to do it. The team needs building around, and it's not fair, really, on Dalot. He should be competing with Mazraoui on the right. I mean, Malacia, is he good enough? Oh, it's a tough one. You can't really rely on Malacia to be your first choice left back. You can't. And I think this is where Luke Shaw will come back in. I can feel myself contradicting again. As much as I love the thought of Dalot playing ahead of Shaw and Shaw not being our first choice, I want Dalot on the right. I want him in his natural position, challenging with Mazraoui, and that leaves Shaw, Malacia and Amas. But if United do go out in January and buy a left back, that left back will be a first choice left back. I think United go out and get Kirkes from Bournemouth in the January transfer window, which is a deal I think can happen, then United are moving forward. That is a good signing to make. And if United do strengthen the left-back position, forever contradiction, no SLD. I keep doing it to myself, don't I? I'm talking myself out of situations constantly all the time. But you know where I'm going with it. Like, I don't want Luke Shaw to be relied on as our first choice left-back. But I do want Dalot to be on the right more, competing in his natural position. But I do think that Dalot will play more games at left-back than what Luke Shaw will this season. You know where I'm going with it. We're actually nearly at 300 likes for a morning show, which is amazing, everybody. Thank you so much. We've run the morning show a little bit longer today because the midday content isn't actually at midday. It's going to be a bit later, obviously, with the build-up to the game and whatnot. So expect that probably early afternoon rather than bang on 12 o'clock today. Obviously, it's match day and the match day content takes over from this point. But to kickstart the day, full on the positive vibe, just to go over the news again. Luke Shaw, Mason Mount is fit and is back in first team training and could be available for Palace. I've put a poll up and I'm going to ask the same question in the chat once this video finishes. If Mount and Bruno are fit for weekend, who plays at number 10? That's the question I'm going to pose. But for now, everybody, that is us all wrapped up for the morning show. Thank you so much. We're 25 likes away from 300. If you could all just give the video a like on your way out. We've been in around 900 people for the show. Really appreciate you all just tuning in the early morning show on match day. Match day vibes are going, people. United are beating Barnsley tonight. It's going to be 4-0 to United. I'm going to say it now. I'll go over that more later on in the show. But thank you, everybody. Comments absolutely bang on the money. Absolutely loved it today. Thank you so much, everybody, for being involved. Super chats, members and mods helping out in the chat. Thank you. Appreciate you all. Hope you have a fantastic day. I'll see you all later on. Obviously, match day build-up starts this afternoon. I'm going to go and do some bits now, get myself sorted, and have a good one, people. I'll see you all later on.